Welcome to the Sales versus Marketing podcast, where we speak with sales, marketing, and business leaders. I'm your host, Scott, and today I'm going to be speaking with Brett Campbell, who is the co-founder and chief evangelist for Claxon. Now, Claxon is a strong marketing agency out of Australia. They are the winner of the 2018 Best Social Media Agency of the Year, as well as the 2019 Marketing Agency of the Year, keeping in mind they've only been around for 3 years. So Brett has a really strong past, and obviously he's bringing that experience to Claxon. He is a serial entrepreneur. He has scaled businesses to multi-million-dollar figures in the past. He is a extremely proficient marketer and strategist. What he's brought through Claxon is the ability to innovate, deliver holistic end-to-end strategy for companies that really just cuts through the noise and delivers repeatable, sustainable growth and return on investment for marketing dollars and ad dollars spent. So I'm very, very excited to sit down with Brett. I'm going to let him introduce. He is also a public and keynote speaker, so he's probably going to introduce Claxon way better than I can. So let's just kick it off then. So talk about who you are, and we'll go a little bit more into your background, but just who you are, what you're doing now, and what Claxon is.
Wow, that's a huge question. Who am I? It took me 36 years to uncover who the actual answer to that. But I would class myself as a serial entrepreneur, a individual who has either an on switch or an off switch. There's really no mediocre. There's no middle line. I'm the kid that grew up thinking differently to a lot of my friends. I grew up a very trapped, as I call it, entrepreneur. I didn't even know what an entrepreneur was. I didn't come from a town of entrepreneurship at all. Like for me, I grew up in a very low socioeconomic area. To put context around that, was across the road from where I lived was the mongrel mob. I guess let's call it PAD. That's where they all caught up. It's a big gang. They caught up on their motorbikes, come around. Behind us, 2 streets back, was the Black Power gang, so they were rivals. Directly behind my house was the weirdest thing I've ever seen when I think about this. Like, imagine living in it was a housing commission sort of area, so it was housing, public housing, and we had a section which had a little bit of land. Let's call it 900,000 square meter section. So there's a bit of grass there. But not enough to house horses on. So our neighbor directly behind us had 2 horses in their backyard. It was unbelievable. Like they'd be putting their head. I literally say that I lived on a farm, but I didn't. I was in an actual, public area, and these guys had horses in their backyard. So come from very humble beginnings. Kicked out of high school at 16 because I talk too much, which is funny. I get paid now to speak. And speaking actually is what I do as well. So it's quite ironic when you look back at it, but it was just misguided for me. I got kicked out because I was not focused on school. I was good at 3 subjects: woodwork, physical education, and lunch. I realized I wasn't going to get paid to eat. Physical education back then, wasn't really an industry, so the only thing left for me to try out was woodwork. But I always knew that I was destined for something different, right? And this is, I think, when I talk about this, a lot of entrepreneurs, it sort of, vibrates with inside of them because they're like, yeah, I feel very similar, and I've had the luxury of talking to thousands of entrepreneurs, and whether it's on live events or on, talking on podcasts and so forth. But there's this difference, we're bred differently and we think differently. And you can hear all these big speeches around, we're the misfits, we're the ones that, are helping move this world forward. And I truly do believe that. But at the time, I had no idea. I just thought I was, a distracted young man, which is exactly what I was. So long story short, fell into an apprenticeship, became a cabinet maker. I knew from day one it wasn't what I was destined to do. Got out of there 5 years later, right? So I stuck it out. I had that mentality though of, if I start something, I've got to finish it off. I've got to see it through, and my mindset's very different on that now, and we can talk about that. But fast forward to 12 years ago, I was so fed up in life that I I felt like I was just not living a life, like I was just conforming to society. And I jumped on an airplane, moved from New Zealand, where I grew up, to Australia. Became a fitness professional. Funnily enough, I still wasn't going to get paid to eat, so the fitness was still there. Right, I wasn't too bad.
You tried the next thing on the list.
Yeah, I tried the next thing on the list, and became a personal trainer. Became really good at it. Uncovered online marketing. Became really good at it. Built the fastest growing fitness franchise in Australia, the fastest growing fitness college here in Australia. Sold tens of thousands of online products and programs, and generated hundreds of thousands of people on our databases. And fast forward to a couple of years ago, started Claxon, which is a digital growth agency where we specialize in paid advertising, growing and scaling companies. And recently we just took out the 2018 Best Social Media Agency of the Year award, and we just won the 2019 Marketing Excellence award, which is extremely exciting. So we just also launched in very close to you. We launched our first office in America 4 days ago, actually, in California. So lots happening.
Exciting. That's an incredible journey. How did you stumble into marketing and be so successful at it? Because you just started being a personal trainer, and how many personal trainers don't delve into marketing?
Very, 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 very good point there, because you're right. I actually had the luxury of working in a big box gym. So I went to a big gym chain. So I was a fitness first over here in Australia. And I naturally, for what got me kicked out of school, right, which was speaking, I naturally had what my mother always called the gift of the gab. Right, I was always able to have a conversation with anyone, like a stranger. I was never afraid to go up to someone and just spark up a conversation, and that comes back to my curiosity as well, which I think is one of the key pillars and probably the most effective thing I've ever been able to utilize to generate any success in any area of life. I think you've got to remain super curious, right? So I was curious, and I'd walk up to people on the gym floor and go, "Hey, how you doing? What are you training? How's it all going? Oh, hey, would you like to see a variation of what you're doing there?" And da-da-da-da, and then I'd go through it, and I didn't know what I was doing at the time. I was just doing what I thought I had to do, go up and talk, right? But what I was doing was I was going up, I was building rapport, I was educating them, right, which is what everyone needs to do to move someone along the buyer readiness scale, which, again, didn't even know that was a thing. But I was just naturally doing it, became really good at it, filled up clients really quickly. And then I realized once again, probably for the third time in my life, that this isn't really the thing that I really want to be doing, right? I knew that I was put on this planet to do something better and bigger, and I wanted to have a bigger impact. And, I was working 40 hours as a personal trainer, being part-time psychologist, counselor, you name it, best friend to like 30 different types of people, different personalities. And it was an interesting ride, learn a lot more about myself. But I was walking out one afternoon to go and train clients, and I walked past my roommate's computer, and I seen a PDF document and it had a guy standing and an image next to it. He was squatting. I was like, "Oh, it looks like he's doing a squat." And I said to my roommate, I said, "Oh, what's that?" And she goes, "I just bought a workout program. It's $37. I'm like, "What? You bought my first thought was, why aren't you paying me to train you, right? That was my first thought. I was like, "Oh." Young and naive.
little hit to the ego,
simultaneously, simultaneously though, I was like, that dude literally made money while he slept. He's in America. He made money while he slept. It's nighttime. I was like, there's that thing where people can say you make money while you sleep. It was the first ever time it really landed on me. I was like, wow, that's impactful. So I just became obsessed with online marketing and psychology and influence and persuasion and what it took for people to purchase and just sent me on this journey. And the online marketing was just a byproduct of me having to learn a skill in order for me to fulfill what my greater vision was, which at the time was just to impact more people, right? And it was that it's important to frame it like this, that internet marketing, the me sitting up at, from 9 p.m. when I'd get home from training clients to 3 a.m. in the morning learning how to HTML code, because there was no drag and drop builders back then. I was learning how to HTML code, testing different shopping carts, all of this stuff. Like, that was just a necessary evil towards me achieving my goal. I never wanted to become an internet marketer. I never want to become a marketer. I'm sort of known as this sort of social media marketing sort of business guy, but that's just the skills that I've learned to be able to do what I do really well, is grow and scale companies, right? Marketing is just one channel of that. So, mate, pick apart whatever you want there.
That's that's a lot. So, I like the progression, and I like your story a lot, and that's really what I wanted to get out, because I think the story is to lead you to where you are today. It makes a lot more sense now, because you're very entrepreneurial by nature, and I think that curiosity, like you mentioned, is something that I love to do too, and I really do want to make this all about you and Claxon, but it struck a chord with me when you were speaking about just learning all these ridiculous things that you never wanted to have to learn just because you have to learn them, and how that turns you into such a strong, for yourself, an internet marketer, growth agency. You've built an entire brand around it, but the takeaway for that is really for people that are earlier on in their career, or if they're looking to start their own thing, or if they want to do a side hustle. It's like just that constant state of learning, and just trying new things and breaking stuff, and just pushing yourself to know all these things that now look at what you've done with it, and now that's your livelihood. So
something there that I'll speak to, which I think is really important, especially for anyone who's looking to endeavor on a entrepreneurial journey, or they're like, how do I start a company? How do I go from just me sitting in my underwear in my bedroom on a secondhand table, and that's where it started for me, right? Going, how do I actually build something that's bigger than me? Because if you ever want to have an impact, and every person I talk to that even has a slight entrepreneurial or intrapreneurial trait, right? They all want to affect and have an impact bigger than themselves. And I'm here to tell you this right now, that the only way you're ever going to be able to do that is to build a team of people, an amazing team of people, lead a team of people, because you cannot do everything, right? I thought I was the guy who could do everything. I could build the funnels, I could write the sales copy, I'll shoot the video, I'll set up the audio, I'll do all of this and that, and I'll even be the customer service person, because I'm the best at replying to those customer service, complaints or whatever it is, it's just, right? It's exhausting, right? It gets exhausting, and the quest of building an amazing team of people that buy also into your vision, because what we also need to understand is, and I'm talking the entrepreneur who just can't sit still, the person who, and to give you context, is when I built our fitness franchise in the first 6 months when we launched, from day one when we launched, I had over 170 fitness professionals express interest in becoming an business owner. I was like, oh my gosh, right? We had 35 locations up and running in the first 6 months, full steam ahead. And then I realized something happened in my life, but I was like, oh my God, what have I just done? Like, why'd you build a franchise? You didn't even sit down, Brett, and think about this. You did a bit of a future plan and go, oh yeah, let's have 1,000 locations and let's do this and let's do that.
But it started happening.
It was that I shot first, I shot again, and I kept shooting, and then I decided to aim, and then I decided to think about it, right? I did it in reverse. It was, and this is where it lies back to. Just because you could, it doesn't mean you should, right? This is an ethos that I live by now, because I no longer have the franchise, right? So that's that story, in the sense that, and I knew that I never was going to continue it to this big thing, because I knew deep down that that wasn't the path, right? And there's a whole bigger conversation around that. But I share this because what happens is when people are in jobs, or people are looking for a transition into, I want to go and do this now. It's like, get super clear on what it is you want to do, why you want to do that. What's the impact if you do it? What's the impact if you don't do it? Who's this going to affect other than yourself in your life if you say yes or you say no, right? You need to really intentionally think about what you're about to embark on.
And
right?
Is that what you did with Claxon?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Very methodical, very different way of approaching and building the business. which was quite interesting because they're and I still have my company Fit International, which is a global fitness company, but very, very different approaches. But it comes back to this concept of just because you could, it doesn't mean you should. Like for people looking to make the transition, there's so many opportunities right now. Like there's so many pieces of low-hanging fruit that people can go, you know what, it's got to be better than my job, so I'm just going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, like, trust me, I've become a affiliate marketer. I was, I did the SEO thing. I did like everything. I was like, yeah, I'll do it. It just became a yes man, right? Which back in the day, I feel it was probably a little bit easier to do that, because now to get penetration in certain industries and marketplace and so forth, that's a little bit harder. You got to be a little bit more intelligent around it. So just really thinking through what it was and what it is that someone wants to do is a massive starting point. I don't even know what your original question was, just to let you know.
I think it was no. You went on a really good a really good rant, and you're like a walking motivational quote with some of the stuff that you're dropping right now. So I appreciate it. But I was speaking about how you were more methodical in building out Claxon, and more importantly,
Sure.
how did you build it out the second time? The lessons learned that you incorporated, so it wasn't such a shit show, right?
Yeah. So the biggest thing from day one was, what is the actual end outcome, right? Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. One of the habits begin with the end in mind. Such an important principle in everything in life. I was that gung-ho when I was in this. Like, it was almost like, imagine letting, so I got 2 pugs, right?
Yeah.
2 little pug dogs. And every morning when we let them out of the laundry to go outside, we have this thing called pug toner, right? And basically, as they run out of the laundry, there's this swooping bend that goes into the lounge and living area. And it's almost like they've got to come out of their door and they just do this consistent arc, like they're drifting like they're drift cars, right?
Yeah.
And their legs are moving 5 times faster than they need to be because they're skidding on the timber floors, right? And they're like out of the gates 100 million miles an hour, right? They're out the door, and then all of a sudden it's like, they're just chilled, right? And pugs are generally chilled in nature. But when I got released to this world that, Brett, you can do whatever the hell you want, mate. You're not governed now by someone telling you what to do. You don't have a boss anymore. You're your own boss. Mate, I was like pug toner all day, every day, right? I just couldn't be stopped. Like when I was building our fitness franchise, I was like, you know what? Let's build another online product, right? Because back then, and I was driven by a number of different things as well, but we could do a product launch and do 6 figures in a couple of days quite comfortably, right? Because we had the database, we had the audience and so forth, right? So there was this big attractant that, geez, if we build another product that's amazing, again, it always has to be about great product. Yeah, we can have a bit of a nice influx of cash. It's like, why would you not? Especially when I was going $20 an hour as a cabinet maker, I was earning $800 a week, working my ass off harder than I've ever worked in my entire life, right? So this big thing, the opportunity to be able to serve your audience, but then also make good money from it as well, was very, very attracting. So I was like, cool. Middle of this launch to franchise, I'm like, okay, how do I build another info product? Well, you're going to have to get up at 3 a.m. So I worked from 3 a.m. till 9 a.m. building info product. 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. when the team come in was franchise mode and everything else mode around the company. And then from 5 p.m. till like 7, 8, 9 p.m. I'd be working on the info product again. And this was a month out from Christmas too, mind you. There was so many things telling me not to do this or maybe slow it down a bit. But that was just again, that reference to pug toner.
You're still in that mode. You're just nonstop.
Oh, man, I was moving 1,000,000 miles an hour, right? So the difference, back to your question around what have I done differently now, was from day one going, where do we want to take this business? How do we want to build this? What does this company actually going to represent? And from day one, we want to. There's a massive opportunity in this industry right now in this space, like the digital growth, the social media space, and we call ourselves a digital growth agency for a number of reasons. One is we're not just a social media agency. We grow businesses using digital. Right, we're not interested in just running campaigns, right? Even though we cover social, we cover all the social channels, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Snapchat, LinkedIn. We cover all the search, right? Google, the Google Suite, YouTube.
Yeah.
Programmatic, we cover all the online space, TV, on-demand advertising, and then, of course, deep data. So we've got the 4 horsemen, right? And that's because that's the key. Like, we don't do any organic social posting, none of that, because none of that really matters if you're, well, it does in a silo, but people can do that themselves or hire Janet, straight out of high school to do that stuff, right?
Write some copy for their website. You're optimizing. You're dealing with big ad budgets and.
Yeah, we're getting results. That's what we're here for. We're all about return on investment. Our conversations are very different than a lot of the, accidental agencies right now. The people who, got asked by their friend, hey, do you know how to run Facebook ads? Oh, yeah, I've ran 2. And then all of a sudden they've picked up a client, they've got another client. So there's a lot of that happening right now, right? That's just like any new industry that just happens. So we're in this weird space right now in this industry where we're like 2.5 years into this. Now, I know agencies have been around for a long time, more the SEO, the different side of things. But from a pay-to-play perspective, we're really at the forefront of this, right? We're pioneering. We're helping pioneer this space, right? So it gives us a very unique opportunity to look at going, well, what opportunities are there in the industry? There's a massive dire need right now for businesses to be able to partner with, and work with agencies who know what they're doing, right? And that are revenue generated and not just – we effectively on our clients consistently about scaling their own business, right? I mean, it's almost like an inbuilt bloody sort of mentoring advisory type scenario as well, right? But there's a reason for that, because to substantiate, the done for you services, you need to be getting results and growing it month on month, right? Ideally. So
I want to actually ask you something quick, because you
sure.
Okay, so you just to sort of wrap up what we were talking about before. So you built this business out very purposefully with this idea in mind. This is like the end goal that you want to be for your clients. But you're playing in a space that's also very noisy. So that's just to bring that to a close.
Yep.
But how do you, so now different line of questioning just in terms of what you're doing now. How do you differentiate yourself in such a competitive industry where you're dealing with the kid that ran Facebook ads twice and the person buying they're not so educated, right? So the people that are dealing or purchase don't have the resources in house. And I'd actually love to know like who your target customer is and who you try and go after and who works best with you. But how do you differentiate and sort of make noise?
Yeah, so there's a book called Play Bigger, and it's in that book there's a concept called Category Kings, and I read this a couple of years ago.
I love the book.
You've read it?
Yeah.
So you get the concept, right? Yep. So you get the concept of trying to pioneer a space. Digital growth for us, digital growth agency, we're pioneering that space because there's not a lot of people out there talking the language. They're not representing themselves in a way as we do, right? Like we do not have conversations about us running ads for you. That's a very, very different scenario. We partner with businesses. We're essentially your bolt-on marketing division that's going to grow and scale your company. We're what CMOs need. Right, we are exactly what CMOs need because we are an entire team of experts inside our organization. And because I say, and I'll preface that because everyone will say that everyone's an expert in their own thing. I get it. But there's a real key makeup of skill sets that you need to really win in this space. We now live in an omni-channel world. Okay, to grow and scale businesses, no longer Facebook ads is the only thing that's really going to be the best for you. And anyone who says, Facebook is the best, it's like, have you thought about utilizing Snapchat with it? Have you thought about utilizing LinkedIn? How about Pinterest? How about any of the Google search and Google Suite and YouTube, et cetera, right? Because we live in this omni-channel approach. People are on multiple different channels now. So we don't just run ads. We create world-class strategies that build and scale businesses. And there's 5 lenses that I'll share with you that like if you want to have effective campaigns and you want to grow and scale any business from a marketing perspective at a paid level, these are the skills that we need, okay? And these are departments within inside our business, okay?
Okay.
And this will quickly debunk and demyth why Robert is not the best solution for you and when I say Robert, I'm saying Robert who's a solopreneur, who's an ad expert. He's not the best solution for your business if you want to grow and scale it. Now, could he do good? Of course, I'm sure Robert's out there making wins and doing good. But if you've always got to think about, can you do better? Are you in business just to do good, or do you want to do the best that your business possibly can? Like I want to squeeze as much juice out of the orange as we possibly can for every business. And that comes back
too. Long term, not
long
just the
term,
one
of course.
campaign.
Mate, that's exactly right. It's not. We don't do short term. Let's do a campaign and see how it goes. It's like that's not how you build a business. So why would you adopt a marketing strategy like that? It's ridiculous, right? And for a lot of businesses, and especially solopreneurs and businesses doing, maybe they've just hit their first six figures, and or even businesses doing seven figures, under 10 mil, still sort of have this sort of mindset of marketing. And you said this at the very start, you were the sales VP and you got thrown marketing or something like that. It's like, that's ridiculous that anyone's throwing marketing to someone. Like, marketing is a specialized and, in my view, the most important role in any organization, because without leads and customers, you ain't got nothing. You could have the best sales team.
Yeah, I was going to agree with you. I was going to say in startup land, I think it's more important to hire a VP marketing over a VP sales as your first hire, because as a CEO founder, you can sell the product. And if you have a VP marketing that can do lead gen and generate interest, then once you have too much interest for yourself to sell through to, then you can worry about scaling a sales team. But that's just my personal opinion. But I agree with you that marketing is incredibly important.
I look at it like this. If your marketing is good enough, your sale will be easy, right? The shittier your marketing, the shittier your brand, the shittier your first experience with someone, the harder your sales team has to work, right? So it just makes sense that marketing would be the first, because marketing and sales, sort of have this weird relationship where they can almost be part of each other, right? Where they essentially are. Again, marketing to me is absolutely vital. It's the bloodline to any business, right? So the 5 lenses that I'll share with you is the first, and if we're thinking of this in terms of, the person out there who thinks, okay, Robert can do my Facebook ads. Let's just use that as an example. So the first lens that you need to look at, and the reason why I call these lenses is it's part of another framework that I teach in another company I have called Unleash Your Greatness, which is all about, becoming the best version of yourself and achieving what you want in life and so on and so forth, more the personal development, self-help type stuff, right? And what you need to do is you need to wear a different set of lenses when you're looking at something, right? If something's not working for you, take off the lenses that you're looking at and put on some new ones. But each lens has to have a set of rules, a set of guidelines, a set of viewpoints and ways that you look at life and look at things, right? Mm-hmm. So if we put the first set of lenses on, and that's the technician, right? The ad technician. So a technician is the analytical-minded person, right? They're the data-driven, the number-driven, right? Number-driven type person. They're the person that is sitting in the ad account, let's call it, and setting up the ads and targeting the ads and looking at the insights and looking at all the analytics and making pivots and changes where necessary. Okay, that's a technician. Those lenses are very, very different compared to the next lens that you need to create a fantastic campaigns and winning campaigns, is that of the creative. Total opposite, right? Polar opposite. An analytical person and a creative person, two different people mentally. Right. Yeah. So poor old Robert has to be an analytical person. Now Robert has to flip and be creative. Now I know there's people sitting there going, I can be analytical and creative, because I was one of those arrogant people. And I said, yeah, I can. But can you do it to its most effectiveness? I am far more creative than I am analytical. I had to teach myself to become analytical. But does that mean just because I know maths and I can look at data and stuff, that I should be the person doing it to get optimum results, right? Yeah. Important distinction there. The creative, 2 lenses within inside that. One of them is the creative thinker, the person coming up with the concept, right? So, for example, if we're running ads for a bread company, right, let's call it, and the creative thinker is like, yeah, we need to put arms and legs on this piece of bread, and it's gonna jump out of the toaster and run around the street and blah blah blah. It's gonna meet Mr. Avocado and he's gonna jump on his back and whatever the case, right? So that's the creative thinker. Then there's the creative designer, the person who knows how to actually bring that Mr. Toast and avocado together and make it look like something, right? Because ideas are a dime a dozen. It's the execution on the idea. Yeah. So there's 2 different lenses within a creative person. The third lens is that of the copywriter, right? You need words that compel. You need to be the wordsmith, the person that ushers someone along the red velvet carpet, that ushers them along the buyer, I call it the buyer readiness scale, right? You know when your buyer is ready to be asked for the sale. On a scale of 1 to 10, you might say, at a 7, we're ready to ask for the sale. What do we need to do to get someone to a number 7, right? So the copywriter will usher them along with their words and take them through this trance of you're lying in bed, you're on your phone, you're scrolling, all of a sudden you're checking out, you've just checked out and you bought something. Like, how did that happen? Well, the technician had to do his job or her job, the creative had to do their job, and the copywriter used words. But this is where it becomes really important, because a lot of people do possess, some creative opportunity. They can use Canva. That was me, right? I was the Canva guy. I couldn't use Photoshop to save myself, but it didn't stop me from creating images, right? It didn't stop me from creating ads.
You can create some damn good looking images with Canva too.
Man, I'm telling you, my most effective ad that I've ever ran, and before opening Claxon, this is important to say, I've spent over $2 million personally on ads before now managing millions and millions, but that was of my own money, right? And the only reason I could spend that was because it was working and converting. But my point there is my most effective ad I ever used was just a simple Google image, and it was the first image, like literally, this is how my mind works. I was creating an ad back then. We don't do this now because we have a totally different structure. Because no one wants to be inside my mind. I'm like creating the ad, and I'm like, okay, I need an image. Bang, straight to Google. Okay, search this keyword. Bang, okay, that one will do. Right click, save, add it, boom, upload it. And it was a picture of, so one of our companies in the health space is around food and recipes and so forth. And I had this picture of an overnight oats, which was just it had a spoon on the page. It was like this bowl, or like a jar sitting on a table. I was like, that's good enough. Put it in. And I didn't even crop the image properly. And I actually, I was in that much of a rush that I didn't even crop the image properly. But funnily enough, I split tested it off where I went back and cropped the image to make it look better versus the uncropped look like I'd just thrown it in there. That ad ran for like, it would be over 9 months without even touching it. Like, it was just killing it. Thousands and thousands and thousands of leads come through this ad, right? Now, the point there was you need to have a creative process. That sort of goes back against everything I say. That's an anomaly, right? That's an anomaly. It doesn't work like that
You can't
anymore.
replicate it. Right? So who cares if it works? You're not going to be able to replicate it. So that's
very, very true.
Yeah.
Correct. So, but the point I'm making there, back to the fourth lens, is that of the strategy, right? A campaign can work, but what's the point of the campaign? How's a campaign connected to building and growing and scaling your company, right? What are your KPIs you need to hit each month, right? What are your targets? How many sales do you need? And don't just arbitrarily throw out this number going, it'd be nice to have 100 sales of my course doing this. It's like, yeah, but how does that actually fit into the overall strategy? What are we doing today that's going to have impact in 6 months? What are we building now that's going to build brand value and reputation right now that's going to have impact in 6, 12, 18 months? Because it's not just about the right now, it's about the soon to be, right? Because that's how marketing works. That's how database building works. Like, literally, we had.
No, I was going to say that you're speaking long term. I think it's a CEO of BMW who said this, and he said if I had shown you an ad for BMW expecting you to buy the car tomorrow, you would have never bought it. But if I'd shown you that ad since you were 3 years old, by the time you're ready to buy a car, you think BMW. So long game, yeah.
Why do you think Apple gives away computers to kids at school, and they've got kid discount, student discounts, and because they want to get them as soon as they can. Like, you look at how many kids right now, honestly, are on iPhones and iPods playing games. You think they're going to just jump onto a different device? Like, they are programmed, right? That's super smart. But the point there is the strategy lens. So the strategic person, the strategic thinker, the person that can see the dots that aren't there. And that's what we do really, really well, right? Where we have even a further advantage is the fifth lens. And this is really our point of difference as well. One of our points of differences.
You have a few, but yeah.
Yeah, we do. And you sort of need them in this day and age. Is that the lens of the business builder? Okay. So the business builder is the person that can sit there and go, this is how you grow and scale companies. What more outside of the marketing is required? What's going to happen in fulfillment? What's going to happen at the sales? Like, what if you get 100 leads a day? How are you going to actually do that? How are you going to build your sales division? How are you going to do X, Y, Z, right? So knowing how to build a company can then get passed down into the strategic person that can can start building that map, right? And then the other lenses of the creative, the copywriter, the technician all come together and build something amazing. That is why Robert, who charges $2,000 a month, right, and Vanessa, who charges $1,500 a month because she's trying to undercut Robert to get some clients, that's why the industry right now is ripe with people having a crack. And look, I'm all for people having a crack. Don't get me wrong. I've had so many cracks before. But what's happening, and for us, and like we can sit there and complain about it, but the best, thing to do is what are we going to do about it? So we're out there starting to educate people on this. Like this, when you hear this, you can't unhear it. Right now, I would almost guarantee, and you tell me, after hearing those 5 lenses, tell me that you don't have a different perspective on what it takes to actually build an ad now.
100%. Right? No, 100%. And I think you take a lot of this stuff for granted until you hear it broken down so simply, which is because you can't argue. It's not a it's logic. It's like you hit all those points and you're like, yeah, I can't build an ad without that. And if I am, I'm not doing a good job.
You know why there's not people out there on Facebook or any social platform asking you, what number should I put in the W-2 field for wages and salaries in my Xero accounting software? I don't see any of those questions. You know why? Because you go straight to an accountant.
Yeah.
Your accountant does that stuff. Right now, there's people asking, how do I do this? Should I do campaign budget optimization? Should I be using carousels, dynamic creative, da-da-da-da-da-da? It's like, why are you even asking that? Like, and trust me, I get it because I was the guy that I did all my own marketing and I learned it and all that stuff, right? But that was because that's how we're programmed to really take this on. Facebook has this little blue button. This is why. Facebook have a little blue button that says boost post. The amount of people who go, oh, it says this post is performing 80% better than every other post you have. Would you like to boost it so I can get seen by 6,700 more people? You're like, fuck yeah. Sorry about swearing. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on here. But, and then you're like, cool, boost. Would you like to put $10 in it? Sure. Bang, you go $10. And then it goes, hey, would you like to put another $10 and we'll triple the amount of people that see it? You're like, of course I will. Bang, right? Now you're in this loop of you're starting to advertise. You're now a Facebook advertiser because you know how to boost the post. You're a Facebook advertiser. Congratulations. But is it effective and is it building your business? Or is it just giving you some ego strokes to say that 8,400 people viewed this and you got 12 likes? We need to step out and take digital marketing and pay-to-play marketing seriously for what it really is. And you either need to become the expert yourself and you need to be obsessed about every aspect of it and learn all of these variables. But if you really want it to work successfully, in my view, is you need to cover all of those 5 lenses. And I'm yet to meet one person who is absolutely expert level status in all of them. I put my hand up and go, I'm a good all-rounder in them. Right? I'm very strategic. I'm very business-minded. I'm very good at copywriting. I'm good at creating ideas. I'm not good at building them. I got no idea. The amount of ideas I go and throw out to the team and they're like, that's great. And I'm like, how do we even build that? Oh, well, that's going to be very hard. That'll probably cost us $50,000. Da, 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 da. Like I got the ideas, but there's severe lacking in at least a couple of them. Mm-hmm. I learned to be the technical guy, but I couldn't think of anything worse for me than to sit down and create a Facebook ad inside Ads Manager.
Do you see... You deal with a lot of businesses. When do you think, or do you see any businesses that can actually take on these 5 different lenses? Are we talking like Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies that do this effectively, or not even?
Because here's the reality. A lot of our clients come to us because it's such a new industry, right? This is an important distinction to make. It's a new industry. There's no one coming out of a university course that knows how to do knows how to do Facebook advertising better than anyone in our team. You learn on the job. It changes. It's like really, you can do courses and you can learn some stuff, but you're only going to learn so much, right? What people really like, big businesses think that they can hire a CMO, and here in Australia, the average lifespan of a CMO, so chief marketing officer, is 18 months. Do you know why? Because we've moved from this world of branding first, right, to now actual ROI driven results, and now CMOs are responsible for the lead flow and sales. And so the CMO just can't go, oh, but our billboard got seen by 84,000 impressions, like you guys should be making the sales on the back end. It's like CMOs have a big role to play in a business, and you can't and we know this firsthand again because we've interviewed hundreds of people to become a strategist in our team. You can't just go, it's not like you're packing boxes. If we wanted to scale a company and we're packing boxes, I could get 1,000 people working tomorrow and have them trained in a couple of hours on how to pack a box. But when you're looking at a brand new skill like Facebook advertising, Google advertising, Pinterest advertising, LinkedIn advertising, these are all really new. TikTok advertising coming very soon. There's a number of fundamentals that you need to know beyond that, right? Because it's not just can you run an ad, it's like what's your marketing understanding, what's your psychology level, what's your influence understanding, what do you know about humans and why we do what we do? It's such a deep thing. And for an organization to go and hire a technician and then hire a creative and then hire a strategist, let's call it they're the CMO, but I'm yet to really see too many CMOs who are amazing from a strategy level. They're basically, from what I see, is they pull the puppet strings, which is cool because that's the sort of level that they're at. But they need some really good puppets to pull. And the marketplace out there is really low when it comes to highly skilled people in those roles. So what happens is a CMO is faced with the opportunity to go, well, we need to either build an internal team, because these are your only options, right? This is it, black and white. You either build an internal team and you could probably make do with, 2 to 3 people. You're looking at, $250,000, $300,000 salaries to start with. That's a massive overhead, right? Or you can partner with an organization that has all of those skill sets, right? And at a fraction of that, what it would cost to even have one team member on your team, you could again partner with someone, or you can learn it yourself. You can spend your 7 p.m. till 2 a.m. going through every bit of resource and course and everything that you can, but then you have to remain on the forefront of that. You need to continually upskill your team we internally, and while we know it's very, very hard for anyone to be ahead of us, is every week there's at least 2 scheduled team training sessions where we're always upskilling. We're always on the forefront. We've got direct relationships with Facebook and LinkedIn and all of these platforms, even Pinterest, where we get the inside scoop of what's happening, because you have to stay on the front edge, and it's hard for businesses and solopreneurs to even try and do that. And I don't want this to come across like I'm trying to pitch our services at all.
No,
because it speaks for itself. The reality is that it takes more than an individual to try and build a business.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask one more thing, because you mentioned the importance of having these strategists. Where do you find these strategists, or how do you find these people? What's the best type of person that fills this role?
Yeah, so people, firstly, the first port of reference is always someone who has pre-existing experience. I mean, that's always going to trump, right? For sure. Especially in the executive senior level roles that we hire for. It's like what companies have you worked for, what strategies have you created. We'll even at times create mock examples. Hey, here's a result that we're looking for. How would you go about creating a strategy around this? So really do due diligence, right? Strategy for me is, I think, it can be a learnt skill, but it's quite innate, right? Like, I am at the heart of it a problem solver, so I'm very, very strategic. I see dots that others don't even see, right? And that just happens from my childhood. Back at school, in our primary school when I was about 10, our principal started a class just for me and a friend to do problem solving, because I just had this ability to be able to do it, and I loved it. I just love solving problems. That's why I attract a lot, right? Now that I understand the universe. Thank you, universe, for sending them. But it's really doing your due diligence, right? And a strategic person is a problem solver, essentially, someone who's always solving problems, So we always look for that type of quality. Where do you solve problems? Not even just in a business sense. Like, tell us where you did something in life and this happened, and how did you go about solving it? What's your thinking process of how you solve certain things? Like for me, I have a default way of solving problems, especially in this industry. It's, do not come to me with your opinions that are not backed with any facts i.e. data, right? Because at the end of the day, it's all data driven, right? Now, of course, opinions are fantastic and feelings, we need to nurture those, but you cannot build a company and you cannot make decisions based off feelings, right? I heard Ben Shapiro say this once, and I love this line. It's like, facts don't care about your feelings, right?
Yeah.
And it's true. Your profit and loss sheet does not care about how you feel, right? So being able to, we look for people who love to solve problems, people who have solved problems, people who have, it's a different personality. Someone who's very strategic is a different personality than a technician, and so on and so forth. So there's a number of variables that we look for.
Yeah. And do you find they come from like executive roles, or maybe not even? Maybe it's people that, I was curious about that in particular. Like
so leadership, people with inside other teams. We've actually found we've got a couple of people inside our team that actually own their own agency, and they realize how actual hard it is to build a business, and that they actually don't want to build a business, because there's one thing.
It's that entrepreneur.
That's the entrepreneur, right? Yeah. There's one thing falling in love with marketing and thinking marketing's amazing, but then you have to do everything else required to build a business. And this is what I was saying earlier. Like, there's a lot of accidental entrepreneurs, right? Robert and Mary who are doing this. They all jokes aside, one of their friends said, "Hey, do you reckon you could run some ads for this person?" They're like, "Yep, cool." And then all of a sudden they got like 4.5 clients, and they're sort of doing something, but they're really not. They're not making any money because they realize now to run a business costs money, and you've got to do all these things, and they're getting paid less than they would if they're actually working inside an organization that helped nurture them and their skill set. So we've got people. Majority of our team actually have experience in the space. There's a handful that we've actually, we put through a very vigorous training and consistent education pathway, which is what's needed because there's not thousands of people out there. Yeah. No. Like, we have people turn up for a job and we grill them, or we ask them questions around even, let's call Facebook advertising, and and there's absolutely no idea. Like, I've had someone go, I will ask, what do you rate yourself out of 10 on a scale of, Facebook advertising, like your ability to get results? Probably about an 8 or a 9. I'm like, okay, cool. Have you used like dynamic creative before? Have you used, what's that? Geez, okay. So people's perceptions on where they're at in the industry is exponentially higher than where they actually are at.
Which is
because there's no governing body.
Which is the reason why there's this whole incorrect assumptions about what digital marketing is.
Very true.
Yeah. Okay, I want to wrap this up because we've been talking for a bit, but that was killer. That was really, really good. I really enjoyed listening, and I just kind of let you go, so I appreciate it. A lot of really good insight. Quick questions for people that are up and coming. One thing that you could tell your 20-year-old self, just one thing, what would it be about business, about entrepreneurship?
Jokingly, I'd say buy stocks in Amazon and Apple and Facebook. But I think on a deeper level, it would be understand who you are very, very quickly. Like, be obsessed about creating this thing of awareness and knowing who you truly are and why you're doing what you're doing. Because one, it puts me in a state of absolute peace 9 times out of 10. Now, it doesn't mean I don't have days that are terrible and I just I put down the tools type thing. I'm done, right? We all go through that. But knowing what I know now on a personal journey, on a self-development journey, for me, and we didn't get to talk about this, but when I was 25, what shifted me from this crazy entrepreneur, pug toner type mentality, right, to slowing down and being a little bit more methodical was, I had a dear friend of mine, she passed away in front of me, and it just shook me, right? And it was this defining moment that I needed something like that to stop me and slow me down and then to recalibrate. So my self-awareness back then just wasn't really, I wasn't aware. I was just living life every single day, doing the same thing, persevering, being relentless in everything that I did, but I never really stopped to check in with myself. So having the awareness to be able to check in with yourself and realize that once you can understand who you truly are, everything else starts to make sense. Because I'm guided by a set of internal laws, let's call it, my own rules for life, and there's a framework to living. We don't get taught how to live, right? We don't get taught how to sit down and create goals and be true to yourself and be true to others, and like none of that gets taught. Emotional intelligence is not taught at school. And I would, long answer wrapping it up, would be to be aware and generate an enormous amount of emotional intelligence, and just live every day as it comes. So
yeah, no, that's good, man. That's a good insight. And I've never heard that one before, but everything you're saying is making a ton of sense. I think being self-aware is probably the one of the only ways to truly be successful as well, and be happy with yourself for that success.
And let me close this loop, because I opened it at the start, and I'm glad we got here actually, is the number one way for me to create that level of self-awareness was to be able to tap into my curiosity, right? At the start I was talking about curious and just being super curious. Once I understood what curiosity was and how an impact it has, because I'd be the guy that would always want to find something out. Like if I see a computer, I'm like, how does that work? Like, how's that even coming through that screen? I hear something on TV and I'm like, geez. My mum used to get annoyed when I was a kid, because we'd be watching TV and I'd be asking her, hey, how does that work? Or why is that happening? She's like, look in the encyclopedia, right? Back then, before the computer, look in the encyclopedia. And I'd be sitting in the encyclopedia trying to figure this out. And go, oh, okay, that's why the lion eats the gazelle, right? Or whatever happens. And so curiosity, being able to tap into the curiosity, creates this level of self-awareness for me, because I'm checking in and I'm being aware of what I'm thinking about and why I'm thinking about it. And, I think if the world could be far more curious, we'd start opening more conversations. We'd really get to know people on a better level, on a deeper level. Like, why do you think that? Why is that your stance in life? Whether it be political, religious, or
and not be so
from a
offended
business
about answers, and just be open to communicating.
Exactly, because you can always, Jordan Peterson talks about this. One of his rules in his book is, and the 12 rules for life, is assume that the person speaking to you knows something that you do not know.
That's
right.
Yeah.
And I mean, like a mic drop of going, it's not a battle of you have to be heard. And I learned all this because I was a very talkative person, right? And if I look back at myself when I was a kid, I probably cut off my friends a lot and jumped in on conversation, not because I was trying to be rude, but because I felt like I had something to say, right? And it was done in a non-malice way. But once I understood that, geez, I can actually learn more from other people because they've got different perspectives. And I love having conversations with people where they say something and it challenges my perspective, because I'm not ingrained into one thing, like it has to be like that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I love talking to people. Like, I'm not a religious person, but I love talking to people about religion because I'm still trying to find that thing that you can sort of help me get over a line of understanding. But it happens in dialogue, and it happens by being curious and being okay with that. So
that's good. Yeah, no, I agree. Last thing I wanted to ask, insight for people listening as well. Where do you go to get information? It could be podcasts, it could be audibles, it could be mentors, books. What's your go-to?
I've been smashing YouTube the last probably 12 months, to be honest. I mentioned someone there, Jordan Peterson. I jumped on the bandwagon 2 years ago with him. I think I've consumed a couple of 100 hours of his content. Just a super insightful man of just so much intelligence and knowledge, and he articulates things in a way that when I hear it, it's like sort of when I was telling you about the 5 lenses, when you hear something and you're already like, I felt like I already knew that, but having heard it that way just totally challenged my mind. So there's a number of things that I really love learning, and like I said, it's about ourselves and human beings and why we do and think and act the way that we act. So I love that deep knowledge and understanding, and definitely consuming YouTube is a big one, podcasts, audiobooks, etc. But I like to pick sort of a topic, or I pick a person. I just go super deep on it, really try and understand their way of thinking and why that they're thinking that way. And you can learn so much from just, there's not even what's being said or what you're hearing. It's the way in which it's being said. It's the way in which people react and act to it. And like, I've been literally following the since 2016, right, the US elections. Like
Yeah.
I've been following it pretty heavily. Like I know way more about American politics in Australia, that's for sure, right? But I'm following it in such a way that I'm seeing how things are happening and why that's happening. And then, because sometimes you're sitting there going, but how do they get away with that? Or how's this even happening? And it's like, you can get upset about it, or you can try and think around it and figure things out. So I don't really have a set routine around, do I consume an hour a day of a podcast? I used to have some rituals like that, but I only did it because I thought that'd be the cool thing to do, because that's what you read in some books, and I was like, that doesn't work for me. So whenever I'm in my car, I'm always listening to either YouTube videos or content, so yeah, mate, I
Awesome, man.
cover a wide variety.
No, that's good. So if people want to get in touch with Claxon or yourself, whereabouts can they go?
Sure. Just go to Brett Campbell, BRETT, campbell.com.au. I wish I had a different name. I hate having to go Brett with 2 T's, Camp with a bell. Like it's a routine now, because I especially for my American friends, they think they hear Brad.
Oh no, yeah,
BRAD or BRIT, Brit, and I'm like, okay, BRETT. Anyway, just go over there. You can check it out.
No, I was gonna say Gary Vaynerchuk has that similar issue, because he tagged himself, I think, on Twitter as Gary V, and then he realized he had to start spelling it out because it was Gary VEE. So whenever he did conferences, he said, "Follow me at Gary V." So VEE, same same issue.
Crazy.
Same issue. But anyways, that's all I got, man. I appreciate the talk. That
Cool,
was
man.
crazy. Well, you heard it from the man himself. If you want to connect with Brett Campbell, you can hit him up on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/in/Brett O. Campbell, or you can go to his website, brettcampbell.com.au. Brett is an incredibly strong strategist, an incredibly strong marketer, and entrepreneur. He was an amazing guy to chat with. I'm really, really happy we had him on the Sales versus Marketing podcast. As always, if you like this podcast, please leave some feedback below. Please please comment, please subscribe, please share it with your friends, family, coworkers. And if you leave us a rating, any rating's okay as long as it's 5 stars. If you know somebody who should be on the Sales versus Marketing podcast, please reach out to me directly, sdouglasclary@gmail.com, or you can hit me up on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/sdouglasclary. Shoot me some names, and I would love to chat with them, love to speak with them. That's another Sales versus Marketing. I hope everybody has a great week, has a productive week, and we'll talk again soon. Bye now. Welcome to Scott's Thoughts, where we break down the podcast that we just had, the last Sales versus Marketing podcast, where we spoke with Brett Campbell, who is the co-founder of Claxon, a multi-award-winning digital marketing agency. If you were listening, you obviously got a ton of insight into Brett's story and what Claxon's doing for their clients, but not just Brett's story and Claxon's story. We got tons of great digital marketing insight and information. One of the main things that really, really stuck with me, and I wrote it down here. You spoke about the 5 lenses in which you have to implement a digital marketing strategy. So the first lens, and I really want to double down on this because he spoke about another thing that sort of dovetailed into this, which was the state of digital marketing and how digital marketing, anybody with a computer and an internet connection can claim themselves to be a digital marketer. And I guess the standard of excellence and the benchmark for true digital marketing excellence is extremely low, and there's very few specialists that can deliver a proper solution for clients and deliver true ROI. And we're seeing this mentality permeate companies as we see CMOs having a very short lifespan, as they're no longer just responsible for branding and messaging, but now they're responsible for delivering ROI. So they want a return on dollars spent, whether or not it's MQLs or converted leads or revenue. Marketing leaders are being held to a higher standard now, as is a marketing agency. So Brett makes us all aware of these types of agencies, that these are truly solopreneurs or small agencies that specialize in one but really can't deliver the depth of what a marketing strategy should be, which should be more than just marketing, but it should be a partner in business growth and just basically long-term business growth, and not just short-term campaigns like we would see with a solopreneur or a small marketing agency that's sort of pigeonholed into one avenue of digital marketing. So the 5-step process that Brett has built out through Claxon, his marketing agency, as well as the process that he walks all of his clients through, is as follows. So the first step is the technical. So you have to have a technical individual that can analyze data sets and can understand those data sets and use them to build out a smart campaign. You have to have creative. So you have to have somebody that can think through a creative strategy, as well as somebody who can actually build it out. So the collateral, the marketing collateral, the graphics, the design. So there's the creative part. The third part is the ability to write copy. So the verbiage, the words that drive the people that are consuming your content to trust you, to want to engage with you, and to want to buy your products. The fourth is strategy. So tying all of these components together and managing them in a way that's in congruence with your business goals. And then last, but certainly not least, is being a business builder, being a business advisor, and understanding the long-term objectives of the business, and then tying those back into the marketing campaign that they're putting together, the omni-channel marketing campaign. So it's this 5-step strategy is what he takes to companies with, and what rightfully so. He mentioned this in the podcast. Once you've heard these 5 steps, you can't disagree with them. These steps are the way you have to deliver marketing, and if you aren't doing it through combining all of these 5 steps, you won't be effective, or it won't be scalable, or it won't be aligned with business goals. And if that's the case, why are you bothering to do it? Another point that he really spoke about, how he allows companies to understand that this type of strategy, this 5-step strategy, is the future of what digital marketing. So this is the gold standard of digital marketing, and this is what all digital marketers, teams, internal or external to companies, are going to be held to, is through education. We've spoken about this repeatedly on the Sales versus Marketing podcast. The best way to get your target audience to trust you is by being that subject matter expert, by educating them on what your company does, on your brand, on what you deliver, and by putting out this content, by creating messaging around all your content that is educational, that converts and that educates and that positions yourself as a subject matter expert, which allows Brett to deliver his 5-step process because he delivers it through education. So that's another Sales versus Marketing podcast. I hope you got something out of that. I thought that was a really, really strong discussion, a really strong interview. I'll leave some of the points that we discussed in the show notes below. And if you want to reach out to Brett, hit him up on LinkedIn or on his website. That was another Scott's Thoughts. If you have any comments, feedback, please leave them in the comments below. And as always, have a great week, have a productive week, and we'll talk again soon. Bye now.